Welcome to Second Take, the show that takes a look at the issues behind the news. Phase 3 of the Government Business Partnership was launched this week, with a focus on higher growth and job creation. Terence Creamer joins me to unpack some of the key themes and objectives. Hi, Terence.
Hi, Chanel.
What is the background to this partnership and how has it evolved?
Well, the background was very deep economic crisis, close to collapse, where we were having an extreme load shedding, and we were having a collapse of our rail and port systems at the same time, and there was a general sort of depression around the economy. So in 2023, Government Business Partnership was formed with a very big focus at that stage on load shedding, which was really an existential threat to the economy. And we've obviously seen over the number of years that that focused attention, with the support of the private sector as well as with taxpayer support in the form of debt relief to Eskom, got us out of the load shedding crisis, and we now have a fairly stable electricity system. In fact, we now have surplus generation. There's a lot of curtailment of renewable plants going on at the moment as a result. So then there was a big focus on the logistics crisis, and we're seeing a turnaround there. And over the years, there's been two phases so far. More issues were added, so crime and corruption, where I don't think they've really been able to make the impact that they were hoping for, but there's still work going on, and youth unemployment. We also added into the bucket of issues that the Government Business Partnership was focusing on, with very clear, defined governance frameworks, with structures like we've set up, almost, I think, very similar to when we had the COVID crisis, where government business cooperated very strongly, very focused work streams, and lines of delineation. So obviously, where the policymaker is in charge, the policymaker must be in charge, and where the business can help, business must help. But not allowing those decisions with the tail to wag the dog, in other words. So it's been fairly successful, and what we've now got is phase 3.
4 sectors have now been earmarked as growth drivers.
Yes, so that's the big change under phase 3. There's sort of 10 areas now in total, and 4 key growth driver sectors have been identified as mining, agriculture and agro-processing, tourism and infrastructure. All these are traditionally important sectors for South Africa, and have been key to its previous growth, all except for probably agriculture are underperforming relative to their potential. Mining in particular, was sort of the foundation of South African economy, but we've really given our resource base and potential of South Africa, especially as there's a global transition in the sort of electricity industry, which requires certain minerals. And those minerals are what they call critical minerals. We have some of those. Platinum group metals being a sort of a high-profile example, but we've also got manganese, chrome, and those form part of the critical mineral base. So there's a focus. What are the constraints, and how do we overcome these quickly? And obviously, the long lingering one has been this cadastral disaster. And that they put a sort of a line in the sand now that this government business partnership is going to try and get that sorted out nationally by early 2027. That's not a long time away. And that would be a major progress. And then there's a whole lot of other issues that really constrain mining investment that they're going to look at unblocking. Similarly, there's going to be a focus in tourism, really trying to elevate South Africa as a destination, but also getting access to South Africa much sort of improved, particularly air access, which is where sort of an end of hemisphere destination. So you actually have to improve that, and that has to be commercially viable for the tourist, because every 13 international tourists, creates mining jobs. So this is a potential export sector that is highly labor intensive. Obviously, agriculture, similarly, the amount of jobs that we can create if we can boost our exports of different, already we're the number one, I think, in citrus and some nut products as a global exporter. If we can really boost that through port efficiencies, having the whole supply chain, properly refrigerated, etc. There's all those little building blocks that can really start elevating these sectors and help them contribute more to GDP and in turn start creating jobs. And that's the sort of big crisis for South Africa, as we know that we've now, on narrow definition, around 34% unemployment, which is really catastrophic for the country. And we need to start making a dent. And historically, we do create jobs if we grow at a certain level, but 1% doesn't cut it. 3%, which is the new target of this group, of this government business partnership, also doesn't really cut it, but it stops more unemployment happening. We really need to move from 3% to sort of the 5% level, where we don't only start creating jobs at scale, eat into the backlog, but we also accommodate the 300,000 people that into the jobs market every year. So it's an audacious plan, but the initial focus is to use these growth levers to get to 3% growth from the current between 1% and 2%, which is very, very low. And we've been lingering in that sort of space for a long time. And then in the process, create 1 million new jobs by 2030.
Business is also willing to assist at the crisis-ridden City of Johannesburg and in shaping a new country narrative.
Yeah, so, there's this focus now on the City of Johannesburg, and, business for some time is saying they're a willing partner. If there's a credible and willing counterparty, and I think the view currently is that that's not clear that is the case. So business hasn't got involved. There haven't been structures set up yet. We know that we're very close to a local government election, so I think they may be keeping their powder dry there to see how the sort of political chips fall. But they've said very much, if Joburg fails, it's very difficult for the country to succeed. It's still the capital of the economy. It's still where most of the JSE listed companies are headquartered and domiciled. So it's really very important that we turn the city around. Obviously, Joburg is one of many failing cities. I mean, in Gauteng alone, Kuruleni and Tshwane are also struggling, but it would be a flagship project to try and turn that around and I suppose set the benchmark for how turnarounds could happen. So that's one sort of in the file. It hasn't been activated, but one where they're saying this is where we feel the partnership that we've done, for instance, with the focus on logistics and electricity. We know we can help. We think we can help Johannesburg as well. So that's sitting there on the sidelines, at some point coming off the bench. The other thing is the view that you need to shape a different country narrative. And we know there's many problems around South Africa, the unemployment crisis, the crime crisis. There's these massive infrastructure backlogs that are really biting citizens at the moment and are biting businesses as well at the moment. But there's also potential. And I think what the view is that if we can start getting the potential out there of the country to people that are interested still, investors that are still interested but are reticent. And that means a new story line around South Africa. Yes, we know and we're honest about our problems, but are you aware of some of the opportunities? I think particularly around these 4 sectors. And for instance, in mining, they're setting a target which is quite ambitious of 50 billion rands with investment commitments within the next 2 years. And that's really, I think, going to require a different country narrative. So that, it seems like a soft issue, and it is a soft issue, and it feels maybe like a manipulative issue, but that is what countries need to do. You need to put your best foot forward, but do it from an honest platform. We know our crisis, we know our problems, we know the decay in the cities, but this is what we're doing about it. But do you know this potential also exists? So it's ambitious, and I think it's something, because we're in a geopolitical environment where there are a lot of headwinds, we actually have to sort of swim against that tide. And I think having this partnership's a fairly unique structure. There's a lot of critique of it and whether it's really bailing out for politicians that should just be left to fail. And that I think it has done that to a certain extent. But on the other hand, this is our lived reality. So as South Africans, we need to feel that there's a future, there's going to be opportunity for growth, and there's going to be opportunity for both business creation and then with business creation and enterprise creation, hopefully many, many, many more jobs.
Thank you. That's the Second Take show for this week. Thank you for watching and join us again next time for more news analysis.